while still on that, your safety is our concern. If for some reason you are not feeling well, we have ensured that we have our health desk at the back, our EMS is here, and don't be shy. They will treat you with respect. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ungathi mawuze nepain encane la ufike la uthi hey, I need help ngoba unamapilisi. Don't bother Thabiso with that kind of issue. But thank you so much. We are hosted. We are hosted. We are hosted by the school here. I'm going to ask now the president of the LRC, Tsietsi Mashinini, to come and welcome us. Come, Tsietsi. While the audio is being sorted out, let's welcome with applause. Thank you. Where's the, are you going to do it today, in the podium? Thank you, sis. Cool.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Program Director. It is with great pride and humility that I stand before you today. I am Tsietsi Mashinini, President of the RCL at Morris Isaacson. A beacon of history and resilience, esteemed guests, distinguished alumni of Morris Isaacson, the Mashinini family, and fellow learners and the Representative Council of Learners, and everyone joining us across our nation. Esteemed guests, distinguished alumni of Morris Isaacson High, the Mashinini family, and fellow learners and the Representative Council of Learners, and everyone joining us across our nation, continent, and globally, I warmly welcome each of you to this occasion, where we gather to honor and commemorate the enduring legacy of the leaders of the Soweto uprising, class of 1976. Today, we pay tribute to the heroes of that pivotal moment in our history, particularly Tsietsi Mashinini, whose courage, determination, and sacrifice paved the way for the freedoms we enjoy today. His fight against the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction ensured that generations like ours could access education with dignity and the freedom to express ourselves, and let us acknowledge all the students and activists of 1976, some of them in attendance today, whose resilience continues to inspire us. As the youth of today, we stand in the shade of a mighty peach tree planted by the class of 1976. If we cannot yet pluck its fruits, let us at least cherish the shade it provides, a legacy of opportunity, hope, and responsibility. It is our duty to nurture this tree for future generations, ensuring that the sacrifices of our heroes were not in vain. It is my profound honor to be part of this ceremony, the 10th anniversary of the Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture, surrounded by those who continue to uphold the values of Morris Isaacson High School and its legacy. Let us move forward with gratitude, unity, and a commitment to building on the foundation laid by those who came before us. May the spirit of Tsietsi Mashinini live in all of us young people and continue to be our beacon of hope and excellence. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. Thanks, Tsietsi. Thank you for your message. One of the organizations that's, of course, assisting us here is the Phuthanang Youth Trust. there. Can I use the handheld mic? Can I use this one rather? Thank you. I'm going to ask from the Phuthanang Youth Trust now, Musi, to come up. There's a lot of feedback up here. Musa Mdunge, give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Program Director. On behalf of the Phuthanang Youth Trust, allow me to extend my greetings to the Mashinini family, to the members of Morris Isaacson High School alumni, to the students who have so eloquently welcomed us today, to our keynote address, Dr. REUEL KHOZA. Ladies and gentlemen, Sanbonani. My name is Musa Mdunge, and it is my honor and privilege to represent the Phuthanang Youth Trust in this 10th Tsietsi Mashinini Memorial Lecture on a topic that for us as an organization is quite close to the heart, as we are gathered to speak on the role of entrepreneurship and what it can do in helping us as a country alleviate both poverty and the scourge of unemployment. As you and I, ladies and gentlemen, would know, that 1 in 3 South Africans will struggle to find a job regardless of their best effort. And it is difficult for us to comprehend such a thing in a country that has the 20th largest stock exchange in terms of market capitalization, in a country where the rand is among the 20 most traded currencies in the world. It is impossible to believe that the JSE is 3 times the size of the South African economy. That speaks to the structural impediments that we have not dealt with since 1994. And we as an organization are charged with that responsibility. Under the leadership of our founders, Mam Ruth, Mr. Modise Matloba, and Mr. Phala Modise, we didn't wait for government to do everything in 1994. We said, what is it that we as a people, born and bred in Soweto, that is not only the heart, as you so eloquently put it, MC, the heart of the South African struggle. But I would argue, MC, and go further to say that in actual fact, Soweto is the heart of the South African economy. And in actual fact, MC, I would argue that if we are to properly tell the story of the South African economy after 31 years of democracy, we cannot tell it without the story of the Sowetan economy. Why do I say this, Mr. MC? You will ask me. It's because one day I walked across this road and went to a store called Ndaba and Sons. Like me, I'm a son of an entrepreneur, a spaza shop owner. There is my mother over there, who is also an alumni of this high school. And I was shocked, Mr. MC, when I went there, inquiring at the owner, have you heard of the 10th Mashinini Lecture? Have you been invited, given the topic is entrepreneurship? To my shock, what did they say to me? What 10th Mashinini Lecture? We don't know about it. And I said, now here is the problem of the South African economy right there, is that we have not honored the very businesses that have helped us break the back of poverty in this country. And as the Phuthanang Youth Trust, if we are going to help people like Lerato Sibuka over there, an emerging black farmer who is struggling to get funding from government, surely the people in this room have got the capital, the muster, to help that lady over there break the back of poverty. If you believe in the South African struggle as I in that lady's story, if you believe in the young people who have welcomed us so eloquently in this room, then surely, ladies and gentlemen, after this gathering, it will not be difficult for you to join me, to join that lady, to meet the founders of the Phuthanang Youth Trust, and help us break the back of poverty in Soweto. I believe Soweto can be the next Sandton. We don't need a government of national unity to tell us that. We are the solution. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you so much. Very important. Okay, the next part, we're going to be listening to poetry. The first poetry was coming from a young lady from the Mashinini family. And I would be remiss at this time not to mention that we have amongst us, for those who might not know, Tsietsi's brother, D. Mashinini. Now his daughter, Lisedi, will come up and give us a poem. And immediately it will be followed by Hector Kunene. Let's give them both a round of applause. Tsietsi Mashinini will come up and give us the poem. And then, where's Hector? Oh, there you are. You'll follow immediately after. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I am Tsietsi Mashinini, and this poem is it is a thank you, and it is a we're going to try better on behalf of the youth. So it is titled Your Cries. Your cries rain on the ground, fertilized by the blood of your peers. The sun disappears behind clouds of pain. A future unknown, while the sacrifices were made, a desperate need for change was all that was prayed. Your cries were the foundation for a new nation. I am planted in the soil of your story and watered by the tears. The strength that I walk in was birthed by the resilience of your victory. And now I rise, not to forget, but to carry the torch that you lit. In your cries, I hear my calling. In your fight, I find my flame. The march continues, and the struggle now has a name. Thank you.
Sanbonani. Sanbonani, Ninjani. Special greetings to the Mashinini family. My name is Hector Kunene, and I'm so pleased to be here, especially to I'm a member A 1976 Sanbonani. Ninjani Bantabadal. It's wonderful to see you. Gengu! In the spirit of Tsietsi Mashinini. Gengu! Mutemu! Himbongi abantu isikhofa salisibhala umlando ngama-date inkonde ikhuzula intombi ilahle imlenze ngikhothi ithanga ngilithi khopho mina ngingumntimande ngithi Gia Ntimande bika ngoMashinini uthi yebo hindima uyidlalela kepha eyami impilo namhlanje heyani ngibuza ngibuzisisa ngigudla ngigudluza ngizifuna ngizifumana ngikhulula ngikhulume ngikhetha amagama hanobuhlakani ngikuvezele imicabango yami ngesimo sami nginike ithuba nendlabende nginisikele ububende ngiqale ngoqumbo waqeda amaqanda ngiqale ngeqanda lokuqala maqeda ngiqondo qosheni ngiqoma maqatha maqili baqale baqomane baqabulane baqedane baqoqa baqoqa ngomqemane ngicula inqonqonqo molweni kamadlengozi ngisho ngibaqeda ngobonqondonqondo art play the dot cut the start and proceed to end things from falling apart. I salute Giti Hebe Husutu Tsietsi Mashinini Siyabonga. Thank you very much. Siyazi ukuthi yonke into inesikhathi sayo ngaphansi komthunzi welanga. Yonke into inesikhathi sayo ngaphansi komthunzi.
I gave last year's lecture, so I was instructed.
There's a time when one is clustered with all kinds of events. There's a time when we do not like what we see reflecting in our mirrors. A time when prison bars smell delicious for a minute, but yet again to kill, it never heals, but it steals the joy away, far away, away from these beautiful palm trees and landscapes and seas and oceans. Then there's a time when we wish we could just fly away. Or let the train from Braamfontein station to take me to Kwandenge. Where I can see Zulu speak their language and perhaps have the sound of children laughing in the rain. Maybe that could ease the pain, but then again, reality strikes and wounds take time to heal, so I fill my tank with alcohol, but who cares, for I am faced with a phase that seems to enjoy paralyzing my space, but wait a second, I hear something in my ear. Something to revolutionize this mood, for we know that this life, it never only promised the smooth rides, but the speed humps and the potholes along the way. But what do you say? These depictions of inflictions are just nothing but images of confusion. So don't you dare make a decision based on your current situation, for there is a time for tough people to be tested like gold. For how can we claim the victory when we have never been to the war? There's a time to unfold the pattern. What the audience sees through the revelation of a curtain is a tested and a trialed product of your soul. And nobody can take your joy away. 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 Nobody can take your joy away unless you decide to give it away. Tsietsi Mashinini, we commemorate you today. Yonke into inesikhathi sayo ngaphansi komthunzi welanga.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lesedi, and thank you very much, Hector. Okay, I mentioned that seated in the front we have the brother of Tsietsi Mashinini. Next to him, in case I'm remiss, you've just walked in, you don't know who's seated in the front. That's Omri Makwale. He represents the alumni of Morris Isaacson High School. One of those men and women who've been behind keeping this lecture going up to this milestone of the 10th one. Then the gentleman sitting next to them, whom I'll introduce in a short while, is our keynote speaker for the day, Dr. REUEL KHOZA. Now, it's important when moments like this come that we sort of take a quick look back at where we've been, because some of us may have missed the journey that has taken us or has brought us here to the 10th annual Tsietsi Mashinini Memorial Lecture. I mean, it started way back on the 22nd of October in 2016. That was edition number 1. Now, both the alumni, as I've said earlier, the school administration at the time under Principal Elias Mashile. You can see the photos of the principals here. If you're not, these are the former headmasters of Morris Isaacson High School. yeah, they're there, and then the Tsietsi in the middle. He's not a former principal. He could have been. Ntate Mathabata, I think this is Ntate Mathabata, am I wrong? I can't see from here. That was our principal in June 16, 1976. That was a man who was in charge. He led us in prayer. He led us in prayer at assembly, read a scripture from the Bible. We said, "Our Father who art in heaven," the Lord's Prayer, and then we sang Nkosi Sikelele Africa. And then he said, "Now you can go and march." You can clap. Of course you can clap. Then he said, now we are ready. Now you go, Black Power, Amandla. Later. That wasn't that Elichau Mathabat. But the principal, when this journey of the annual lecture started with the family represented by D. Mashinini, as I've said, and the alumni, the likes of Omri was sitting next to him, they all came together to say we needed this. So it started then. Now we are in 10th edition. Some of you might not know or might not remember, young people might not have read about it. Tsietsi way back was also a member of the South African Students' Movement, ISAZM. We used to call it SAZM those years. And it was also linked to SCM, Student Christian Movement. So we straddled both worlds at the time. We'll be having a Christian session, but we're discussing politics. So when the Impimpis are coming, then we sing hymns. And when they go, we say, Black Power. That's what used to happen. So it's true. Thank you, Brough. So then, by the time the SAZM Action Committee in the 70s was converted into the Soweto Students Representative Council, SSRC, that's really when it was where to confront the problems of the time with the leadership of the likes of Tsietsi Mashinini and the likes of the person who delivered the first lecture, the inaugural lecture, Usisibongile Mkhabela. She's seated here today. Give her a round of applause. She was there in SAZM in those years, and she's here today. She delivered the inaugural lecture at the time. She was a comrade, a friend, and colleague of Tsietsi as well, working together. She was the only female at the time in that executive. True story, the first and the only female at the time. I remember she was detained for some time, and after the day that you were released, we had a meeting here at Morris, by the way, to tell you. We were told your release was coming, so we waited for you here at Morris, and then later you came to deliver a beautiful address at the time. You know, we had leaders. We were so young. I was 17, Tsietsi was 19. I don't know how old you were. I don't want to reveal your age, Sisbongile. But we had formidable leadership as young people at the time. We were so blessed. Then, second edition, the second the second speaker at the inaugural lecture was Dr. Mampila Rampili, who's a former executive member of SASO. And of course, you all know about Dr. Rampili's background with the Black Consciousness Movement, SASO, Black People's Convention, the BPC, and SAZM. So they spoke about all of that. Now, the second memorial lecture was delivered by Advocate Dumisa Ntsebeza, who's very well known to us. So remember, he was a commissioner of the TRC in Democratic South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He also founded the South African National Association of Democratic Lawyers. And then he was part of that legal journey in the country. In that lecture, we had Busisiwe Siabe, who delivered the second lecture of that second memorial lecture. Memorial lecture number 3, we had Professor Bani Pichana, who delivered that. He addressed the subject of black education. before and under apartheid, how the country we've moved or not moved from the old education system to the post-democratic education system. Then the fourth memorial lecture, which I understand was very popular in 2019, was by Professor Tsietsi Mashinini. He's an AI intelligence engineer, researcher of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. He was a vice chancellor of the University of Johannesburg. So he delivered that fourth memorial lecture. So you can see the caliber on the journey from the first one of the people who've been supporting the Tsietsi Mashinini Memorial Lecture. And then Professor Mamuketi Pakeng joined Professor Marwala in delivering that lecture. Then we moved on to number 5. We had Professor Olive Shisana, who's a health specialist, a social policy expert, who's worked with the government, the democratic government. She spoke about the issues that was touched on by KK when he was praying here, that the disease of gender-based violence in our country. And then Ronald Lamula, who's now the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. At the time he was Justice. He also addressed the question, what can the state do to stop, prosecute, and the perpetrators of gender-based violence? Number 6, we had Professor Kollega Mlisana, that was in 2021. She was, of course, Chief Executive Officer of the National Health Laboratory Service. And remember, at that time, 2021, we were in the middle of COVID-19. We were under lockdown, if you remember, in 2021. So it was a tough time. And then Professor Bonang Mohale, business leader, currently the Chancellor of the University of Free State. He also delivered a speech in that particular lecture. So beyond 2021, we come to 2022, which was the 7th memorial lecture. This was delivered by Dr. Kagisho Marukhanya. I met him earlier. Where is he sitting? There you are. Give him a round of applause. He delivered to us in 2022. And he's a psychiatrist. He works with mental health issues. We know how problematic mental health challenges are in our country today, generally. And when it comes to us men, it's worse. You know, it's worse. 45% of all suicides in South Africa are committed by men. Because bathi indoda ikhala ngithi iyathula, ifela ngaphakathi, it's good, it's not good. That thing is a killer. Kumele ukhale mawuyindoda. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry now. I'm just making a point. Okay, it's okay, cool. No problem. So he delivered that important lecture in 2022. Number 8 was delivered in 2023 by Dr. Paddy Lehohla, former statistician general. And he was talking about the issue that was mentioned now by the youth speaker here, unemployment, the challenge of unemployment in the country. Professor Zeblon Vilagazi, the rector of Wits University, was present as well. And he spoke about the impact on skills development and acceleration of entrepreneurship. So today, the 9th lecture was delivered by Annelem Da, an activist. She's a feminist, and she spoke about the problems and prospects of the post-colonial South African state at the end of apartheid. And she was joined by Dr. Wiseman Makasela, who spoke about the same issue around issues of development. So we're here today, number 10. So I was just giving you a picture of how meaningful the past lectures have been from the very first one way back in October 2016. So today, the lecture is going to be delivered by Dr. REUEL KHOZA. And he wears many hats.
Dr. Makasela is around.
Where? He arrived. I did. Sorry, Dr. Makasela. I don't want to miss you. I'm told you're here. I didn't see you. Thank you, sir. Give him a round of applause. Apologies for that. Thank you. So today we're here now. We are going to be doing lecture number 10. We've gathered here, and thank you so much for being here. It's going to be delivered by Dr. REUEL KHOZA, who's the Chancellor of the University of Natal, among many, many, many hats that he wears. So I'm going to be introducing him now very, very briefly. So he's a very highly respected business leader in his own right, and he is also involved in the world of academia. He's a son of this beautiful land of ours, and his journey has taken him through business, through entrepreneurship, hence the topic today. I think it's a fitting topic for him. He's a man who's, in many of our eyes, embodies wisdom, integrity, and leadership with purpose. I don't know how many of you remember, because I work in media, sometimes these stories I remember. And I remember once he criticized the government for certain failures. He was the only business leader who spoke out. And then at the time, the chairman of the ANC was Gwede Mantashe. And Gwede Mantashe said, I am summoning REUEL KHOZA to come to Luthuli House. Remember, and no other business leader spoke out against the ills of bad governance and corruption, but Dr. KHOZA stood up. So he's a seasoned business leader, respected academic, as I've said, a powerful voice for ethical and values-driven leadership. As I've said, he's currently the Chancellor of the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and he holds a long list of degrees and honorary doctorates. But for me, what sets apart Dr. KHOZA is his ability to connect deep African values. He's got this wonderful ability of connecting deep African values with modern leadership challenges. As you will hear shortly, he speaks with clarity, but he also speaks with courage, as I've said, and conscience. And in my view, just like Tsietsi did in his time, when Tsietsi was that young, that's the kind of courage we're going to hear now. So please join me with a round of applause in welcoming Dr. REUEL KHOZA, our keynote speaker this afternoon.
Master of Ceremonies, Brough, thank you very much for those very kind words of introduction. When I was told you're going to be MC, I was delighted because you represent us so well in the media. You acquit yourself with such great aplomb, we cannot but be proud. Thank you very much for representing us the way you do. May I, at the outset, express my gratitude to the committee that invited me to come and share some few thoughts in homage of Tsietsi Mashinini. Omri, I think you were the driving force. Motlatse, Solirata Imani, who could not be with us because he's traveling abroad, and your fellow committee members. I'm greatly obliged to you for the invitation extended to me to come and spend this afternoon with my fellow brothers and sisters and sons and daughters. Soweto is my home too, because I lived in Pimville for about a decade before I kind of trekked northwards like so many of us have tended to do. I also need to extend my gratitude to those who preceded me in delivering the lecture. I was saying to one of them that if I was a practical person, what I would have done was to collect those speeches and take the highlights and put them together and deliver what amounts to a quilt, what amounts to a mosaic of speakers. I think that way I would have done justice. I see we have in our midst, in fact, the very first speaker on the subject matter of honoring Tsietsi Mashinini in the person of Sister Sbongile and his and her esteemed spouse, my brother. People often mistake me for him and him for me. Now, there must have been something about our forebears. I see in our midst also a brother in entrepreneurship, Peter Vundla. I need to pay homage to you because you're one of the early flag bearers in terms of entrepreneurship into the mainstream of the economy. I would like to thank the young lady who actually was party to welcoming us here as a representative in the SRC. I don't know what you call the body. It took me back to 1968, 1969, when I was also occupying a similar kind position. We have seen you and will be watching you. You cannot stand still because we are all in the process of becoming. You become either a fossil of an era gone by or a harbinger of the future. We want to believe that you will be in the latter category. We have seen you and we have marked you. You and whoever are your age. The tone of every era is captured by poetry. And I listen to your poetry with great attention. I wish I could actually access the written version because I couldn't catch everything there is. But poetry has the ability to put something that may be very, very long in prose, but in a manner that is compact and impactful. Thank you very much for your poetry. I am a lover of music, and the music that actually cleared the way for us this morning left me uplifted, left me edified. I have to be grateful for that. Colleagues, I was given 35 minutes to deliver the lecture. Now, 35 minutes is too little for the son of a preacher. Because you put me behind this, I mistake it for, for a pulpit. I could talk until the cows come home, but I'll have to honor the time given to me. I will be delivering my address in two sections. The first 8 to 10 minutes will be actually paying homage to Tsietsi Mashinini, and the balance of the time will be on the subject matter of entrepreneurship, which is what I am supposed to talk about as the delivery of today's lecture. I wanted to say one or two things before I pay homage to Mashinini. I was given to understand that he was a very, very avid reader. Omri actually said to me that he read novels at the rate of 3 times the average student. And I want to believe this is a habit that we should actually cultivate and nourish. In the year 2000, Thabo Mbeki invited us to Mahlamandlovu, and for some 3 hours he said nothing. And at the tail end, he asked the question, where is the black intelligentsia? If indeed they are there, why is it that they don't write? And in response to that challenge, I have to date published 8 books. I'm on to my 9th one, which is with a publisher at UNISA Press. If you could multiply that by all the members of the intelligentsia, I think we would actually be a much better society for that. We have to go beyond seeking sound bites in social media, because that does not develop your intellect. In fact, it stunts it. It actually is an effective brain damager. I think we need to think, write, and elaborate, and engage in depth. That would be my plea. So by way of encouraging the students here to read, I'll leave no less than 15 copies of the books that you see out there. The balance are, in fact, for sale. In here, the latest one would be The Spirit of Leadership. And before it, you had Let Africa Lead, you had Attuned Leadership, you had The African in My Dream, you also had The Power of Governance, and a few others. I want to believe it is important for us to actually state what it is we think may build the nation by way of engaging in depth in writing and sharing ideas that way. Now, back to what I was invited here for. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and the vibrant youth before us, greetings. We convene today not merely to commemorate, but to reflect, rekindle, and reimagine the spirit of leadership embodied by Tsietsi Mashinini. His legacy is not or should not be confined to history books. It should pulsate in the aspirations of every young South African who dares to dream, dares to lead, and dares to build. Nation building, that is. Leadership is neither bestowed nor inherited. It is earned through conviction, courage, and an unrelenting pursuit of justice. Mashinini, like many before and after him, understood that leadership is not about titles, but about earnest responsibility and utter commitment to a compelling sense of destiny. He knew he was here on earth for a reason, a sense of destiny. Achievement at all levels, from the most mundane to the truly stupendous, is a product of creative ignorance. Achievers are people who do not know what they don't know. They do not understand that it is impossible to achieve the things they go on to achieve. Moses of the Bible did not know that he could not cross the Red Sea. David did not know that he could not take on Goliath. J.F. Kennedy did not know that man could not go to the moon. Chris Chataway did not know he could not run a sub-4-minute mile. The students of 1976 did not know they could not take on the might of the apartheid state and shake it to its foundation. Muhammad Ali did not know he could not beat Sonny Liston and go on to become the greatest. Mandela did not know he could not wear a casual shirt to a state dinner with the Queen of England. Barack Obama did not know he could not be president of the mighty USA. The youth of today must recognize that history does not wait for permission. It is shaped by those who step forward to challenge the status quo and who refuse to be passive spectators watching their destiny inexorably unfold in front of them. Beyond activism, leadership finds expression in enterprise, innovation, and economic emancipation. That does not take place in isolation. It takes place in tandem with political emancipation. I'll talk a little bit about that when I get to the main address. The entrepreneur is not merely a trader of goods, but a visionary architect of prosperity. Africa, rich in resources yet often constrained by systemic barriers, must look to its youth to ignite industries, disrupt stagnation, and craft solutions that serve not only profit, but purpose. The young entrepreneur must embody resilience, for the road is fraught with obstacles. But as the African proverb reminds us, calm seas do not make skillful sailors. It is boisterous seas that make skillful sailors. The youth must not wait for opportunities, they must create them. Entrepreneurship is not just about personal success. It is about job creation, economic upliftment, and community transformation. Initiatives such as the National Youth Service, recently launched to equip young people with skills and employment opportunities, demonstrate that the structured programs can empower youth to take charge of their futures. Similarly, organizations like the Youth Cafe train youth leaders to monitor government actions and advocate for transparency, ensuring that corruption does not rob future generations of their rightful opportunities. Fighting corruption requires boldness and vigilance. Young people must demand accountability, engage in ethical business practices, and refuse to participate in systems that perpetuate dishonesty. Platforms such as the Youth Anti-Corruption Dialogue provide spaces for young leaders to strategize and take action against corruption. The path to leadership and entrepreneurship is not paved with ease and comfort, but with endurance and resilience. The world will always tell you that you are too young, too inexperienced, and too ambitious. But history is written by those who defy limitations and choose to soar way above mediocrity. Mashinini did not wait for permission to lead. Biko did not wait for approval to champion black consciousness. Nelson Mandela did not wait for ideal conditions to act, and neither should you. As I move to concluding my tribute to Mashinini, may I remind us that Mahatma Gandhi's evergreen admonition commands attention up to this day and behoves us to heed. I quote, "The things that will destroy us are politics without principles, pleasure without conscience, wealth without work, knowledge without character, business without morality, science without humanity, and worship without sacrifice." Close quote. Now, in paying homage to the remarkable legacy of Tsietsi Mashinini, let us earnestly commit ourselves to politics with righteous principles, pleasure with a clear conscience, wealth born of diligence, knowledge satiated with character, business replete with morality, worship with a requisite sacrifice, and leadership with audacious integrity. Now I have to end with a call to action. The question, in our honor to Mashinini, Tsietsi Mashinini, the question before us is not whether youth can lead, but whether they will. Will you be passengers in history or pilots of transformation? Will you lament the challenges or leverage them as opportunities? The future is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of purposeful choice. And it is shaped by those who dare to dream audaciously, act courageously, and lead ethically. Let us, as the youth of today, rise, not merely in remembrance, but in resolve. Thank you very much. That concludes my first contribution. Now I need to move to what I was supposed to be addressing you on. I hope I didn't take much more than 10 minutes in paying homage to Tsietsi Mashinini and throwing down the gauntlet to the youth. Pardon? Thanks, my brother. I'm as African as can be, but I strive to be as businesslike as can be too. I'm supposed to share a few thoughts with you on how to use entrepreneurship to alleviate poverty and joblessness in our society and amongst the youth of South Africa. Entrepreneurship is one of those subjects that everyone in business talks about. Everyone knows it is important for both small and large firms to be innovative with products, agile in response to market opportunities, and supportive of those creative people who come up with ideas. But today, I want to address a problem that, in my opinion, is the major stumbling block to the achievement of a true entrepreneurial culture in South Africa. This problem can, in brief, be described as the absence of visionary leadership. We live and work in a political economy, not in an environment that is either politics or economics, but both. In this political economy, what is most important is that leadership at all levels of society should demonstrate and not merely pay lip service to a commitment to creative freedom. This commitment must embrace a kind of a Marshall Plan to mobilize the national spirit in pursuit of a true developmental state that rises from the grassroots upwards. A developmental state cannot be imposed on the people from the top by means of government interventions. Much less can it be generated by simply pumping money into subsidies that would seem to promise wholesale job creation for the unemployed, especially the youth. When government calls all the shots and everyone is scrambling for a piece of the taxman's pie, you have not a welfare state, but something very much akin to it. We clash on the streets because we are at odds with each other over how to get the political economy moving towards broad-based national development. We need consensus, not conflict, negotiation, not negativism. We need to agree that true human development, which implies economic and social development, along with leadership responsibility and accountability, requires an ethical commitment to a common destiny in which all citizens can share the benefits of the political economy. In this respect, development comes from within the individual and communities on the ground. It is something that is felt strongly as a motivator. It drives the entrepreneurial urge, and it implies that we, all of us, from corporate industry to township startups, share a single compelling cardinal objective. The aim is to rid ourselves of poverty, dependence, racial stereotyping, corruption, and criminality, the ugly realities of that form a deadly nexus destroying the soul of modern South Africa. We have to turn things around and become the chief architects of our own democratic development state. Now, how is this to be done? First, let me analyze very briefly how the topic of entrepreneurship and the growth of small and medium enterprises is currently understood in those circles where everyone talks about these subjects. SMEs should be the backbone of our economy because big business and the state simply cannot provide enough jobs, even if they tried. Entrepreneurs must take the step up from start-up to substantiality as formal enterprises. What we are witnessing, however, is that many enterprises remain informal under the taxman's radar, and they are harassed by police and other authorities who seem to regard them as blots on the business landscape. Do we correctly understand what entrepreneurship is? In the dying days of apartheid, I had a bone-chilling experience when I was a small business operator running a meat wholesale butchery outfit in Orlando East. When they sent an inspector to visit my little outfit, he spotted that my Ford Granada had an installed car phone, of which was very rare at that time, before cell phones. Upon getting back to his bosses, he moaned that sourcing from me, they were supposed to buy meat from me, a big state-owned enterprise was supposed to source meat from me in Orlando East, here in Soweto. But upon getting back to his bosses, having seen me drive this fairly modest Ford Granada, but with an installed phone, upon getting back to his bosses, he moaned that sourcing from me, a small entrepreneur, sourcing from me as a small business was grossly inappropriate, because in reality, I was a big, fat, black cat that did not deserve a leg up. Certainly, this was a nasty racial slur. But my question is, how much attitudes have really changed? If an inspector today were to find an entrepreneur well-equipped with information technology, smart premises, and well-marketed products, would the reaction be that this person does not need a leg up? Entrepreneurs with panache are what we want to see. They must have a can-do attitude, a sense of efficacy, and they should not be victimized for that. Subsequent to this inspector's visit, payments for my supply of meat to this utility, and it's a utility that I got associated with post the advent of democracy. Subsequent to the inspector's visit, payments for my supply of meat to this utility will take 30 to 60 days, when in fact the utility could afford to pay cash or within 30 days at the very worst. Protestations and pleas on my part yielded no positive results. This was enough to cripple my small business operation, which in fact it did. Let's look at the prevailing ideas about entrepreneurship. It is largely seen as individual enterprise, where someone with a good idea finds a niche and exploits it for personal gain. The same model emphasizes that at some point, the entrepreneur has to learn the skills of management and delegation. That is, he or she has to make the difficult transition from start-up to substantiality and further growth. Unfortunately, this is where many fail. Within 6 to 18 months, they fall off a cliff into an abyss from which few can ever return. Some may struggle. One as a subsistence business, but they do not grow beyond that. This is a functional view of entrepreneurship which leads business planners to recommend key interventions. These include support services, incubation, easier finance, management training, tax breaks, and much else besides, to ensure that the entrepreneurship leaps the abyss. As chairman of Nedbank, I recognized then that all of these interventions are vital. Nedbank provided a number of services to small and micro businesses, not just in the way of finance, but also seminars and training programs such as Simply Bliss, the online portal, TV shows such as It's My Biz and Small Business Friday. We had inspiring programs of finance and other forms of support. And along with other banks, we tried to build a growing small and medium enterprise business clientele for the future from the startups of the day. My plea today is that this should be intensified and multiplied. But surveys seem to suggest that, contrary to popular opinion and government's belief, lack of finance in South Africa is not the key obstacle to small business development. Access to finance is much more available than is the case in many and even most countries. A bigger problem lies with the enabling environment or the lack of it. A World Bank report on the ease of doing business has found that South Africa is one of the most difficult countries in the world in which to do business and start a company. This suggests that obstacles to starting and running a business must be removed. For example, too much state regulation, too many forms to complete, or too many demands from the taxman. Further than this, we also know that the entire education system, from the primary schooling to tertiary level, is in crisis. Half-educated, semi-literate, and non-numerate matriculants emerge seeking jobs, of which there are too few in the corporate sector or in the ranks of government. They then have to depend on themselves and are scarcely equipped to do so. So the cry goes up for the state to provide jobs. And as you and I know that there are major limitations where that is concerned, even with the development finance institutions, where appointing a minister to look after that is concerned, they still do not think hard enough. Most of the ministers, in fact, have not even sold a bag of potatoes at a profit, but they are supposed to be nourishing small business. No lasting solution will be found down that road. But to find solutions, we have to start further back and deeper down in society beyond purely functional remedies. If an entrepreneurial culture is to emerge across the wider spectrum, it needs a certain kind of leadership, offering a vision of our future based on positive stakeholder relationships. We are all stakeholders in a modern South Africa with its global partners in trade, and we, as well as they, all stand to lose or gain from entrepreneurship. In a nutshell, we must seek to attain the Millennium Development Goals of eradicating hunger and poverty by pulling ourselves up by our own entrepreneurial bootstraps. And that means all of us. Are we doing what we should? I want to believe that big business must play its part as well. But what about government? What is it doing to construct an enabling environment? According to the World Bank Ease of Doing Business, in a recent study, in the top-rated countries, in the top-rated country of Singapore, it takes about 3 procedures, 3 days, and costs very, very little per capita to start a business. In South Africa, ranked 35th, it takes numerous procedures. Recently, I looked at how you could go about applying for finance from the NEF. You actually have to complete no less than 11 forms, which elicit irrelevant information, but somehow some bureaucrat saw that as essential. And this does tend to stunt entrepreneurship. And what of small businesses themselves? What are they doing to pull themselves up to sustainability? The troubled issue of hostile labor relations breeds an environment in which good management-worker relations breeds an environment in which good management-worker relationships are not built up from the start. Many small businesses are labor minimizers because they fear being dragged off to the CCMA every week, diverting valuable management time from entrepreneurship activity. To be sustainable in democratic South Africa, you got to base your labor practices on respect of human dignity and rights, decent wages, and cultural understanding. None of this has to cost the entrepreneur an arm and a leg. Efficiency rather than exploitation must be the watchword in small businesses, just as it is and as it must be in big business. Against this background of corporate, government, and small businesses' shortcomings, we have researchers and advisors telling us that small businesses are at a natural disadvantage. They lack scale and thus bargaining power. They lack skills and thus efficiency. They have limited knowledge and information. They often lose clients because they cannot meet large orders. They battle to access training programs, and they face high fixed costs because the regulatory and policy environments do not cater for small and medium-sized businesses. This is a gloomy picture based on the functional approach to entrepreneurship. The functional approach is not wrong. It seeks to correct real problems in the practical context with which the entrepreneur must grapple. But as I said, there has to be a more fundamental set of solutions to our national crisis of small business sustainability. In my 2011 book titled Attuned Leadership, African Humanism as Moral Compass, I argue that leadership in our political economy must humanize itself to deliver a more caring, socially responsible, and democratically accountable form of capitalism. This may sound like a very worthy but abstract and not very practical recipe for business success. However, I sincerely believe that the African philosophy of Ubuntu is a discipline that can correct many of the ills of the type of rampant, destructive, predatory capitalism that has swept the global economy into recession. Ubuntu makes leaders accountable to the led. In business, it implies that the enterprise is embedded in its community of stakeholders and should spread the benefits of profit-making activity. This does not imply that everyone deserves equal rewards for unequal contribution, which is a recipe for communism. It does imply that rewards must be equitable and business transparent. Unless we do turn capitalism around to serve mass needs, the Millennium Goals will remain forever out of reach, which means, in effect, that our business and political leaders at all levels, from local to national and international, must come to the service of small businesses on a grand scale. The idea of a Marshall Plan of the type that served Europe after World War II is appropriate with some adaptations. Let us seek a new national consensus around the concept of the developmental state that is founded on the energies of the people themselves. Their creative freedom can be liberated if it is fully resourced by government and business, comprehensively planned and rolled out, and supported by nationwide stakeholder involvement. We have the institutions to do it, and the wherewithal and knowledge to draw up and execute plans. Functional analysis of entrepreneurship makes the key point that businesses can survive and thrive without the energetic participation of their stakeholders. By concentrating only on the character of the entrepreneur and the difficulties of transitioning to sustainability, better management, and so on, the functionalists fail to recognize the role of leadership, vision, and community involvement in business life. Now, there are a number of things that I believe need to be done, but all of this must be done with business leadership that understands the needs. To this, I would like to turn now. Government policy must serve as a catalyst, not as a constraint to entrepreneurship. It should fuel innovation, dismantle bureaucratic barriers, and provide an enabling environment where business creation and expansion flourish. Here's how. I'll just itemize this very, very briefly. First, make sure that access to capital is real. I remember trying to negotiate for a loan with the IDC. You have to go through so many hoops, and ultimately I had to walk away and approached one bank, and the same proposal across the table with a bank manager took only an hour or two, where I battled with the IDC for months. Access to capital. Without financial backing, ideas remain just ideas. Governments must prioritize funding mechanisms such as grants, low-interest loans, blended finance, and venture capital incentives to empower emerging businesses. Targeted support for high-growth industries, for instance, in technology, in agribusiness, manufacturing, can accelerate job creation. Second, streamlining regulations. Red tape suffocates entrepreneurship. Simplified business regulation and registration, clear tax structures, and efficient licensing frameworks ensure that aspiring entrepreneurs spend more time building and less time navigating complexity. 3, education and skills development. Entrepreneurship thrives on knowledge. Governments should embed business and innovation training within school curricula, foster vocational training, and create mentorship programs that equip entrepreneurs with the tools of success. 4th, infrastructure investment. Roads, digital connectivity, and reliable energy are the bedrock of economic activity. Governments must prioritize infrastructure and facilities trade, technology adoption, and business operations, particularly in underserved areas. 5th, market access and trade policies. Emerging businesses need markets. Governments should foster local procurement policies, facilitate access to international trade agreements, and incentivize large corporations to integrate small enterprises into their supply chains. Sixth, tax incentives and breaks. Reducing tax burdens, or in South Africa, in fact, you are taxed to death and after death. The rounding up of the estate actually pursues you beyond the grave. Reducing tax burdens for startups and SMMEs, whether through tax holidays or deductions from reinvestment, encourages business sustainability and job creation. Seventh, entrepreneurial ecosystems. Government must cultivate hubs of innovation, incubators, accelerators, and industry parks where entrepreneurs collaborate, access resources, and scale their ideas and industries. And eighth, support for women and youth entrepreneurs. Targeted interventions such as dedicated funding pools and training programs ensure historically marginalized groups can participate meaningfully in the economy. A government that sees entrepreneurship as a cornerstone of economic resilience crafts policies that empower rather than encumber. It must champion an environment where risk-taking is rewarded, enterprise is nurtured, and job creation is not an afterthought, but the centerpiece of economic strategy. The question is not whether government should act, but how boldly it will step forward. I thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Pastor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. I'm going to use this one. Is it fine? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful standing ovation. Phuthanang KHOZA, beautiful. I like how you ended, how you're ending it with what needs to be done. Just a couple of things I want to mention before we open up the floor for questions. And I want to underline questions, not remarks, not comments, not statements, not requests, questions. Diputso, imbuzo. So, firstly, he mentioned a title of one of his books when he was speaking. I think you mentioned Attuned Leadership. Now, he's written about 5 books, including one big kind of book. For me, it's more than a book because it's got so much in it. And he's managed to bring some copies here today. It's one of the privileges when you address a memorial lecture that you get given, that you can share your knowledge, not just in the speech, but by bringing something that you have. If you look to that side of the room, of the hall, you can see those books there. There's 5 books that are there. The one he mentioned, Attuned Leadership. He's also written a book called The Spirit of Leadership. And then he's also got another book entitled The Africa in My Dream. I wonder what Africa is, that one that is in your dream, Doc. But we can find out when we get a copy of the book. The other one is Let Africa Lead. And finally, he's got this thick one called Agency, Freedom and Justice, Citizens in Conversation. It's got nothing to do with the national dialogue, Babu Vundle, that Ramaphosa wants us to have. but it's about us as citizens being in conversations. So if you can support, please, you can go to the table afterwards and purchase, buy a book. But in the spirit of giving, he's donating 3 copies of each of the book to the library here at Morris Isaacson. So there will be 15 copies. Lisedi, you're going to grab one. You're going to go and read it in the library. Thank you. And everybody else who's at school will have access to that. So the books are there available. Anyone in the audience today, if you want to support, you can purchase a book for yourself. I'm very fascinated by the Africa in my dream. I think I'm going to get myself a copy of the Africa in my dream. Because we all dream of a better Africa, don't we? Babuntombel, we dream of a better Africa. Whether in the football field or in the boardrooms or at school, we all want a better Africa. So I'm going to get myself a copy of that. Now, those who are social media animals like me, if you are on X, we are present there. If you are in X, it's true, I am on X. He's smiling, the young lady. I love your is it a crown? That's beautiful. Not like you, though. You are more beautiful than the crown. It's on X, it's Tsietsi _lecture. They have already been posting. I've seen some of the quotes from your speech and the earlier speeches. It's live. It's happening there on X, thanks to the team, the social media team there, Lerato and them. And then on Facebook, it's Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture. If you're on Facebook, you want to see what's there, you want to add a comment yourself, just go to Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture. That's on Facebook. And if you are a YouTuber, on YouTube is simply the 10th annual Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture. That's on YouTube, the 10th annual Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture. I guess by now the country knows, the world knows there is a Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture. So if you forget any of those and you type and you look for Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture, you'll find something there. Okay, so for the next 30 minutes, half an hour maximum, up to 3:45. We're not going to go beyond 4 o'clock. We still have some parts of the program to do, so before we leave here. But the next maximum half an hour, we're going to dedicate it to questions and answers. Do we have another roving mic? We got 2 on the floor. Please, please, if you want to, I'll go on my knees. But it's questions. It's not statements or comments or context and background and history. Just straight to the question, short and sharp. Say your name and who you represent, if you represent anyone, if you're speaking on your behalf. We've got there. There's a gentleman there, just next. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. There was a hand this side. Where's the mic this side? There. Just give to the gentleman there. Thank you. I'll start with you, say short and sharp, your name and the question.
Hi, Kumalo speaking here. And one thing that I want to say is that I want to ask, if Tsietsi Mashinini was killed in Africa, and I heard the doctor speaking, and I don't remember Tsietsi Mashinini fighting in Africa to be part of, the infrastructure that's taking business opportunities. All those things that you mentioned, business opportunities. The business, they're incentivizing people to come here illegally to take opportunities that are supposed to accrue to South Africans at universities. The professors that we have now, they have excluded South Africans. So what is he saying about that? The infrastructure destruction that is happening here, all opportunities that South Africans are missing. South Africans are houseless. In all our cities, we've got Nigerians, foreigners taking everything. Crime, spiking off our roads. What are they saying about that? Because it is business and universities encouraging that, because people, if they were not employed here, they would not come here and occupy those positions. People like Dan, ETV, they suppress views of South Africans. They propagate and push for the rights of foreigners. That is the question. Okay. What are they saying about the rights of South Africans?
The question is, what are they saying about illegal immigrants in South Africa? Is that the question? Thank you. Yes, can you give your head to...
Sorry, I didn't quite get the question. So yeah. There is a bit of an echo. I couldn't quite follow.
Sorry, I don't see the mic.
What the question was.
Sorry, where's the mic? Yes. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Say your name, is it? Go. The mic is.
You're going to summarize. Perhaps he does. I didn't get the question.
Sorry, they're just checking the mic there. Is it on?
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Can we just take a question here? Thanks.
My question is, how can we build Africa when Africans hate Africans with passion? How can we build Africa when Africans, particularly South Africans, hate Africans with deep passion?
I think it's, my name is Thabo. I'm from the House of Ma'at. Just a follow-up. Is Africa the cradle of humankind and civilization? And the second one, what is the role of spirituality in developing people? Because with Tsietsi, I got to relate with him from a spiritual point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Begi Maivans Twala. I'm the founder and the president of the Township Economic Commission, SA. I just want to check with Dr. Khoza, what role are they playing in supporting the businesses in the townships and in the villages and in the rural areas? Because we're here, but we are not seeing big businesses joining us, most especially our own African businesses. Young people, they need funding, but we don't see any fund that is created by our own leaders in this space. Thank you.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Lisiho touched it earlier. I don't know if it's on. Okay, there's a question about, thank you, about how can we build Africa? How can we build Africa if we Africans, especially South Africans, hate other Africans? How can we build Africa? There's a question about the role of spirituality in the life of business, I guess, just broadly. Then there's a point made there that business and universities seemingly welcoming all these elite migrants into South Africa, while South Africans don't have opportunities. What do you say to that? How do we respond to that? The fact that we're having that happening. And the role, what is the role of, is it black business? Big business, of big business in supporting township economy or creating a fund that supports small businesses in the townships. Am I correct, sir? Cool. Can we just try and address those before we move on? In the interest of time. Yes, ma'am. We'll come to you, but first let's get answers. We'll come to you. Anybody who wants to Dr. Khoza? Anyone you want to speak to? Is this mic on?
Yeah, I do have a mic.
Thank you, sir.
The first question that I could clearly hear was from But Ishmael Kabele. How can we progress beyond political independence into socio-political economic growth when we hate each other? We hate each other at community level. We hate each other at national level. We hate each other at the level of the regions. We hate each other at the level of the various countries and the diaspora. It seems to be something of a curse for Africans. But be that as it may, I want to plead with us that we should actually stop externalizing the problem. And you have internalized it, my brother. We as blacks, as Africans, tend to blame all sorts of things. We blame slavery. We blame colonialism. We blame apartheid, even after attaining independence. We blame, if everything else fails, we blame God. And I believe it is time we did a kind of internal search that actually admits that the fault lies with us. Other love starts with self-love. There is a sense in which we actually hate ourselves even as individuals. We don't develop ourselves sufficiently. And I think this is a question of what catalytic effect we should actually be getting from those who lead us. Most of our leaders are actually self-serving. They are so narcissistic, you would actually believe they kind of stagnated at a certain level of libidinal development, narcissism. But analysis alone is not enough. I think the kinds of leaders that should step onto the plate are the leaders who, like the alcoholic, must acknowledge that we do have a problem. So, my brother, you have started with the right sort of realization that we suffer from self-love. And the question is, what's next? There are those amongst us who actually don't subscribe to self-love. A fair bit has been written about the worldview of Ubuntu. Ubuntu essentially says, Umuntu, Ngumuntu, Ngabantu. That has got to be propagated. That has got to be nourished. It's got to be taught even almost as a religion. I remember having an argument with a rabbi who said that Judaism will save the world. And I said, Judaism can't save the world because it is actually sectional. It actually says, hey, God, if you want to do something good for us, start with us, the chosen nation. Ubuntu has no chosen nation. Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, inkosi inkosi ngabantu. We've got to propagate that, instill that worldview. I think it was Steve Biko who said that ultimately the world will be humanized by South Africans and Africans. And we can only actually do that by ourselves doing first the analysis and then do the right thing of saying what is in fact the grand design. What is the plan that we should embark on to purge ourselves of the self-hatred and embark on cultivating, loving one another, developing one another. And that I want to believe should be pervasive. It must actually start with education. We should not wait until our moral fiber has been damaged and then embark on moral rearmament. I would like to plead that we actually embark on moral armament. Rearmament actually acknowledges that the damage has been done. So we should start with the churches, with the cultural organizations, inculcate that amongst ourselves, and let that grow in ever-improving concentric circles until it actually encompasses Africa and those in the diaspora. The starting point is Africa, which is why we advocate Afrocentricity. Africa should be the point of departure, as opposed to self-hate that actually destroys us at root. Okay. I've given you too many English words, but I believe you are able to decipher what it is I'm trying to convey.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think there was another question about the role of spirituality, was it?
Big business, spirituality?
It's over there.
Yeah.
I can only invite you to come with me in the book, in the last but one book I wrote, The Spirit of Leadership. Now, spirituality is a lot more important than religion. Religion is actually, it's limiting. Religion is sectional. Spirituality is that which, in my humble understanding, squares the circle of intellect, of emotion, if you like, emotional intelligence, of social intelligence and networking. There is a superordinate force called the spirit. But when the Balungu arrived, they actually purged us of our own spirituality and imposed sectional spirituality. In 1998, I went to Israel and I spent some time with the Jewish rabbi of Jerusalem. And he wanted to know what it is I believe in, and brainwashed as I am, son of a preacher, I said I am a Christian. And he just giggled and laughed at me and said, "Don't you have people of wisdom in your country?" I said, "We do." And he said, "Why do you choose to listen to this Christ before you actually develop your own religion?" In a sense, he was actually suggesting that I am misguided. And indeed I am. Those of us who read the Bible will actually have discovered that very much contrary to ancestral worship, the Jews, even the Christians, actually believe in ancestral worship. If you don't want to believe me, where you are with your cell phones, open Matthew chapter 1. Matthew chapter 1 traces the genealogy of Christ because the Jews wanted to know where he came from. And it traces it 42 generations. But if you come to me and say, "What's your genealogy?" and I give you my genealogy, oh yeah, heathen number one. Because I'll tell you, my real name is, in fact, not REUEL, but Mbhai. And in Xitsonga, in my genealogy, the Mbhai wa Masasubona, Masasubona wa Ndubazi, Ndubazi wa Ngomagenge wa Papala, Papala wa Mukashi, Mukashi wa Nguleni, Nguleni wa Matsuna wa Nungu. And you go on like that, and that actually, the depth of your genealogy and history and sense of history strengthens your today foundation. It is on that foundation that I choose to relate to the rest of the world. If I believe in Christ because my father was Christian, that's fine. But I'm not going to jettison the depth of whence I come, because that brought me here, and it will enable me to understand sideways what my people and I should actually be striving for. And from there, I shall then be able to actually project into the future. Now, spirituality will enable you to understand where you are in terms of having a colonial past, in terms of having a slavery past, in terms of having an apartheid predicated past, and where you are today. And I cover all of that in 300 pages in the book. So I will just invite you, my brother, to actually read the book, and let's spend an afternoon shooting the breeze based on the book.
Iluya was spirituality, the one with the red hat. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And then there was one there about big business.
Big business,
into township
small business.
Funding, yes.
The most successful economies, such as the Japanese of 2 or 3 decades ago, understand the duality of big business and small business. And they advocate what is called the duological economic development. They twin big business with small business and insist on big business actually sourcing from small business, and that way enabling small business to grow. And you can actually introduce that into what it is this developmental state should in fact be doing by way of insisting that big business and small business be twinned. The Afrikaner understood that a lot. When they were able to ascend to political economy, they saw the problem of the poor white as singularly the most important problem that they had to tackle. And in something like 30 to 40 years flat, that problem is eliminated. There are very, very few poor whites. But our government in 30 years has compounded the problem. Instead, they have taken us virtually nowhere. The Afrikaner meant business when they said we'll address the problem of the poor white. Once they took power, they actually insisted that all state employees must bank with Volkskas or Trust Bank, and later ABSA, before the advent of democracy. In our case, there is African Bank which floundered, and nobody seems to care about beefing it up. Self-hate, the self-hate that you spoke about. There is no grand design that African established businesses should in fact be nourished, should in fact be given the requisite funding, should in fact be deregulated to a point where they can actually flex their financial muscle. And this is where I believe we actually fail.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Morning, commanders. I'm here for the dialogue. My name is Otrefigile Shihlomole. My name is Otrefigile Shihlomole. I listen all the story here. I've got a crisis. I was a children, 1976. I don't want to talk myself and put myself in the table with Tsietsi Mashinini. I'm in the right place and I've got a crisis. I want to solve this problem. That someone here was talking. He said, South Africa, I hating Africa. If he was there in the liberation of 76, 16 June, there he was sitting, starting everything. No one hates anyone here. To the liberation, you can't cross illegally. This thing of legal, if you've got a speech and knowing about the royal, if you knowing about the royal of Tsietsi Mashinini in Central, no one can say anyone hates it. No one hates anyone here. Yeah. No one. Amanda, look at this Morris. Look at the family in the politics. Then the liberation starts. You are starting there to take the foreigner out in this country.
Yeah. Sorry, what's the question? I can't hear the question. I hear a statement.
I say to my question, no one hates anyone in this country. The legal is illegal. And in the business of South Africa, look at South Africa how it's poor today. They cross the country. They're crossing their country. This thing is starting from here. I want to close everything that is saying, Africa, I hate Africa. Let the business and the country of 1976 coming back.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Can I we don't have a lot of time. We need questions, please.
Yeah, it was
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's bubbling. We're not going to be able to attend to all of it. Where's the mic this side? Yeah, it's okay. I can see your hands. I need a mic there. Lisiko. We need a mic there. There's at the back there. There's somebody coming. There you go. Please say your name and ask a question, please.
All right, thanks, Program Director. My name is Tsietsi Mashinini. I'm a product of this great school. Mr. KHOZA, mine would be just a bit of wisdom from your side as to if we were to change how our current DFIs are operating, what is it that you would basically give as an advice to their boards, for instance? Given the fact that they currently operate as commercial banks, basically. And I think you also mentioned your encounter with, I think it was the IDC as well as NEF. So I'm just saying that if you were given an opportunity to advise them to change and basically play a developmental role that they were meant to be, what is it that you could actually input in their new way of doing things? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Please, the lady next to you, listen. Thank you, ma'am.